Let's talk right now about assisted dying. Joined right now by Baroness Hoey. Kate Hoey is an independent peer and a former Labour MP. Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, Julia.
Thank you very much for joining us, and I'm going to get Sam Armstrong's thoughts on this as well. But obviously, you know, as an MP, you would have been asked back in 2015 to have your say on assisted dying. MPs voted against that then. Against, I would say, you know, the majority view of the public, and that has been really consistent, that roughly 2/3 of the public believe that there should be some form of assisted dying for at least, whether it's people who are only have a short period of time to live themselves, or people who are in severe pain or desperately want to end their lives. The bill that's coming into Parliament this Friday, if it gets through as a private member's bill, and it's the Labour MP Kim Leadbeater who's bringing it, it would then go to another reading in Parliament, and then eventually, if it gets through, would come to the House of Lords. Do you support the bill as it exists right now or not?
I have looked at the bill very carefully, and I've obviously talked to lots and lots of people. It was similar when it came to 2015, when we had the debate in the Commons, and I voted against then. I had made a lot of, discussions and thought this time maybe I would change my view, because I had been lobbied by lots of people. But actually, when I look at it again, and when I think about the longer-term repercussions from it, I would not be voting on Friday.
And is that the concern about a slippery slope that a lot of people are talking about? There are places like Canada and some American states where it was brought in under limited circumstances, like this case, which Kim Leadbeater's looked at, only if you've got 6 months left to live. Again, how do doctors know? And not for people who've got, say, disabilities or in pain.
Yes, the problem with that, all of that, Julia, is, of course, that once something is in law that it is okay to for someone to have their life taken earlier than has been decided by, perhaps because I'm a Christian and I believe that God has a say in some of these things, all of these things, in fact. But also more crucially, really, if we look at what happened on abortion. Originally, abortion was going to be very, very selective. Very, very, very few circumstances. And now, of course, we've got an abortion legal system where really you could have an abortion right up to the very, very end.
You can't. Look, this again. That's not really true. There's basically abortion on demand up to 12 weeks.
Technically,
it's up to 24. The reality is, only a tiny number of babies are aborted after that date, and for most cases, and I've had a friend it's happened to, we're talking about a child that is absolutely unviable and is severely disabled, and it's an absolute tragedy for those babies and those mothers. And we haven't got like a free for all where women are just popping along, having an abortion. Then that's not what's happening.
I think the point is, I know it's a word used a lot, slippery slope. And once we have legally on the statute book that people can, with all, doesn't matter how many restrictions there are in terms of euthanasia or assisted dying, as they like to call it, then I just don't believe that it won't go further. And I do worry. I genuinely worry about older people who will feel, whatever anyone says, will feel pressurised. There is a generation of people who hate to feel that they're a burden. Many of them don't apply for benefits because they don't like to feel that they're, taking things. They will feel that there is a burden. But, it is a very, very difficult issue. It's an issue which I think probably should not be just put through on a second reading debate like this. We do need perhaps some kind of, and I think even Gordon Brown suggested it, and I don't normally agree with things that Gordon Brown had said, that there really needs to be a wider debate, a wider discussion.
Well, everyone calls for a royal commission or this or that, but again, one of the reasons why I would perhaps be opposed to that would be, actually, I don't want, you've got your God, I haven't got God, I don't want your God to have a say over what I and my family or all atheists could do.
Well, actually, that wasn't my major point.
I realise that, and I think
and there are an awful lot of people who don't believe in who aren't Christian.
But you know as well as I do, for many years, the thing that's held this back is actually is a very strong religiosity relative to in Parliament, relative to the general population as a whole. Here's the thing: I sort of support the bill. To the extent that I feel like I want there to be a starting point. I absolutely would like the bill to have more safeguards for those who are 6 months left to live. But I also would like more people to be added into this. I don't see why someone who is living in agony, whether they've got another 20 years or another 2 years or 6 months live, should be required to continue to live in agony. If they don't want to live in the body they've now got as a result of an accident or disease, I think that should be a right that human beings should have to take their lives, but in a dignified way. But I also want, like you, the safeguards to prevent people being pressured or feeling that, well, they're doing it for other people. I don't know what the answer is, though.
I think whatever happens on Friday, and if it gets a second reading, which I think probably it will, then eventually it will come to the House of Lords, where there will be probably amendments that would do a lot of the things that you're suggesting, Julia, in terms of safeguards, but also there is a tendency in the Lords to find things that nobody else has thought about.
That's kind of the job of the Lords doing the right kind of job. What did you make of the Justice Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, saying, because we had Wes Streeting, the Health Secretary, saying he would on balance vote against it. We know that Keir Starmer voted for Sister Dying in 2015, but Shabana Mahmood, who's the Justice Secretary, this would be a key part of her remit in that sense. You would have to go to the courts. A judge would have to have the final say. By the way, finding a time in court to deal with this, given the many thousands of people who may apply, given that, the family courts are completely backed up for years on end, I think that's going to be a big issue. There is a cost aspect and a practical aspect to this. But what do you make of her saying that the state shouldn't be offering death as a given she have said that, given this is a free vote, not a whipped party political vote?
I mean, I think all of this shows just how difficult it is as an issue for politicians who are having to actually make a decision one way or the other. Most people say on the one hand, on the other hand. MPs are not going to be able to say on the one hand, on the other hand. They're going to have to make a straight choice. And therefore, there will be a lot of them who do feel guided by not just the fact that they personally maybe have concerns, but also that maybe some of these other problems with it, even if it did go through, should be sorted before it became on the statute book. I mean, how are the courts going to deal with all this? You've raised a number of issues there. The doctors themselves, I mean, how do they feel about this? Some of them are very unhappy.
The doctors will have we know in the legislation doctors will have a right not to get involved. Kate, can you stay on the line? I have lots more I want to talk to you about, but I want to get Sam Armstrong's response to that. Because, Sam, you're opposed to this law as well. Why are you opposed to this new law?
Well, I don't think it's actually a problem of slippery slope. I think it's a problem of the fact that this law is just badly drawn. Let's take one really clear example. Would it stop a girl with anorexia in her late teens, early 20s from accessing assisted death on the NHS without ever telling her parents?
Yes, it would, because she wouldn't have 6 months to live.
Well, you say that, Julia, but the law is based exactly on the Oregon system. We're told that Oregon's got the best system in the world. What have patients over in Oregon assisted death for? Anorexia. It's a listed condition there. It happens. Why? Because it's actually really hard to draw where that 6 months does and doesn't apply. Because you can stick someone on a life support machine indefinitely, but would you count that as a 6 months? They don't. So what they say is, well, is your condition incurable? Well, there's plenty of doctors that will tell you that severe anorexia can be incurable. And without intervention, would it lead to death in 6 months? Yes. So that qualifies. So this law, Julia, there's no ifs, there's no buts, there's no whys about it, includes death for those with anorexia. I think anybody that has ever had any experience of that condition would be horrified to think that a vulnerable young woman could, with the state's assistance, kill themselves without anybody in their family ever being told a jip about it. I think that's sick. I think that's wrong. I think that's immoral.
So it's forget the slippery slope. It's what's actually contained in the law. Kate Hoey, do you want to come back on that?
No, I think that's just another of the many complications that will arise, and we will have a lot of people thinking, how could we have ever got into this situation where it allows something like that to happen? Now, maybe as it goes through, if it goes through on Friday, maybe as it goes through Parliament, there will be a lot more barriers put into things like that happening. But then then it almost changes it so that people who've voted for it, for wanting it to happen to more or less anyone who has decided that they would really want, because of their circumstances, to end their life, won't be very happy either. So it is I know everyone says it's a difficult issue, everything's difficult, but this is a particularly...
It is. Getting this wrong in either direction is devastating for thousands of people and thousands of families. Okay, let's move on to something else, which is much less serious because, of course, it's not life or death, and it's not even necessarily involving a crime necessarily. But this idea that the Home Office saying they want common sense guidance for non-crime hate incidents. They've very much been in the news ever since Alison Pearson from the Telegraph was questioned by police on her doorstep on Remembrance Sunday. She believed it was about a non-crime hate incident. They wouldn't tell her what the actual crime was or the incident was or what the tweet was. It then subsequently emerged. They said, oh, no, it was actually a crime. And they've now decided to drop charges, quite rightly, because it was insane anyway. But do you trust the Home Office or indeed the police with common sense guidance?
I think the whole thing is just ridiculous, and I would have thought they should have learned from the Alison Pearson situation, where the idea that the word crime is used and then you're not allowed to be told what the crime was or who has reported it. The whole thing is ridiculous. And the idea that you're going to have people being trained in pubs and cafes to sort of be listening in to think somebody said something that might be causing community tension. It is just...
This is why they're apparently also today going to be busy trying to stop people's drinks being spiked. I mean, I don't know when I was a barmaid for quite a while. I mean, I was just busy serving people drinks.
Yeah, and, most people who go into a pub regularly know there's all sorts of jokes and camaraderie, and that's
why we go to the pub.
Exactly. No, I think this is just another... I think they're obviously on the back foot on this, and they think maybe by coming forward with something a little bit more specific that it will help, but it's like their attitude to farmers, to pensioners, to all sorts of areas of government now. I'm afraid this Labour government is proving a huge disappointment to all those people who voted for them. Many of them, of course, voted just because they wanted rid of the Conservatives, but I think some of them now will be thinking that they're going to sign that petition, not that it will cause a general election, but it certainly sends a good message to Keir Starmer that the public are not very happy. And if it happened to get up to near the 9 million votes that Labour got, then, there really would be
that's the thing. It does start to be quite uncomfortable, doesn't it? I mean, 2,075,036 signatures. No, it's already gone up to 350. I mean, it's going up by the minute. Of course, it got, made extra viral by Elon Musk. But a lot of people say, they feel like it's not just, we wanted a general election because we didn't like the outcome. This is from a guy who... on balance, we spoke to him a little bit earlier, Moses Michael Westwood, who's a publican. On balance, he voted Tory because he thought, better policies. And his phrase was, better the devil you know. He doesn't know how he would vote if there were another general election, but he says, and this is what the text of the petition says, I would like there to be another general election. I believe the current Labour government have gone back on the promises they laid out in the lead-up to the last election. I don't know anyone who doesn't agree with that.
I think that's the important bit about it being anti-democratic. In a sense, it's it's not going to cause... It can't cause a general election unless the government decide. But, they have reneged so much, promising to the farmers that there would be no way they would put on, get rid of APR, promising pensioners that they were going to look after them.
No tax on working people.
So many, and all small businesses who they were absolutely clear that they were going to be helping and supporting small businesses are now finding themselves in very difficult situations. So I think proving to be in government and proving to be a Prime Minister is finding, I think perhaps Keir Starmer's finding it just that little bit more difficult than he thought. Yeah,
absolutely. As a former Labour MP, though, I know you're an independent now, and I think a lot of people actually have a range of different views on things. You've always been a very independent-minded person. I think most people would be hard-pushed to know which party you had been an MP for. No, which is a good thing. I like someone who thinks independence. Well, we love having you on the show. But have you been surprised by just how diabolically bad this government has been?
There's no doubt about it that the government has reneged on so much. It has refused to listen. It has showed no common sense on so many issues, and it's getting itself deeper and deeper into a big hole that I think, whether it's 3 years, 4 years to a general election, the cows will come home to roost. eventually. And I think people
chickens, but cows work just as well. Kate, always a pleasure.
Come from a farm.
Baroness Hoey, independent peer, former Labour MP. Thank you very much indeed for that. Just a quick one from Sam Armstrong. And this is the thing. It's just been, we talked incessantly about this today about just how bad this government has been, and anything that's announced, we're talking about when it's they're dealing something on crime, announcement on benefits, what they say on tax. No one believes a word they say, and no one believes they're going to be competent and do it. And I say that as knowing a lot of my family are staunch Labour voters, you know, and they're not that confident either.
No, and nor should they. I mean, as I said earlier, these are fake announcements. They're never going to do anything. Nothing's going to happen as a result of them. They don't even change the law. They're criminalising stuff that's already a crime. It's farcical, it's joke. It's not worth the vellum the law is going to be printed on, as they say. But here's the thing. This Labour Party has made some choices, right? Yep. It's made really clear choices. The budget was a clear choice. Ed Miliband's energy plans, clear choices. Some of the stuff that Yvette Cooper's looking to do, clear choices. Yeah. And the choices they're making are bad choices. They're the wrong choices. People don't like them. They can blame this on comms and communications as much as they like, but actually it's the policies that people aren't liking.
And that fundamentally comes back to the man in charge, and that's Keir Starmer.